Catherine, how you doing? Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look. I was reading your writing. Everything makes good sense. And I agree. Uh, More typography is going to bring this poster to, to validity, meaning that it's going to look more like a movie poster when you start adding the production credits, etc. I'll get into all that in 1 second, but just wanted to continue looking at your writing here. So this makes sense. The writing makes sense. I'm going to take a look at the work itself, and I think we have got some issues here. And specifically, the main thing I'm seeing here is this. Nicole, when we take a look at what we're learning here, we're learning raster image processing, right? And during week one, we spent a lot of time looking at the differences between raster images and vector graphics. And the biggest difference between raster images and vector graphics is that vector graphics is created using a different software than raster. So raster could be considered anything that comes out of a camera, right? They're constructed using pixels, whereas vector images are constructed using mathematical algorithms. The biggest difference between the two is that raster images are resolution dependent, meaning that you can't resize them without experiencing image degradation. That is because they are composed of pixels and not mathematical algorithms creating crisp, clear lines. Vector graphics, on the other hand, are infinitely scalable. The problem that I'm having is that this image is a raster imaging processing class, a raster image processing class, but we're using vector graphics in this movie poster. Now, I know you said it was going to be an animated movie, but I think that that's something that should be reconsidered, because what we really need here is we need to use vector graphics. If you take a look at all of the examples in the class prior to your submission, we can see all of them include images. Okay, there's a few that are up, but they all include images. Even the examples where the student wanted to express an animated type film, what they did is use regular raster-based images and added a cutout filter to them to give them this kind of cartoony feel. And I think that the biggest issue here is the fact that while using vector graphics, you're in Photoshop, there's no reason to assemble this particular piece in Photoshop because you're not utilizing any of Photoshop's specific tools. You could assemble this in Illustrator and get away with the exact same configuration. So when we talk about image compositing, we're talking about bringing images together into a composition. So I don't really see image compositing techniques here. For example, let's go ahead and take a look at that. Right here, this one, where the images, these are images that are brought into the same composition, making the composition look like the images belong together, right? But we don't really necessarily see that in your example. We see a background with just different images placed. The images don't have any kind of relationship with one another. So what I would like you to do is I would like you to reconsider your approach here. I would like you to use, this might even entail changing up your concept a little bit, but I would like you to use raster images to compile your poster. Number one, it would give you great practice in Photoshop and allow you to utilize all of the tools available for raster imaging. Number two, it would more specifically follow the requirements of the assignment as well as the learning outcomes of the class itself. Please let me know if you don't understand or if you're having difficulty understanding the differences between raster images and vector graphics. Let me know, because that's a critical consideration at this point, and one that really needs to be understood. Now, I understand that you're using masking techniques to extract these from their backgrounds, and that's great. But nonetheless, we still want to be able to use filters, image adjustment layers, etc., which won't work as well on vector graphics as they will on raster images. The next thing I would recommend is using the typography. If we jump over to the assignment page, we can see these are the fonts that are used to assemble the production credits at the bottom of movie posters, which very, very much makes it look like a movie poster. If you're having difficulty understanding how to download and use these fonts, just jump right over to this announcement, production credit fonts and image site sources, and this will show you exactly how to download and install fonts on your Mac and your PC so that you can use those fonts in your final poster to assemble your production credits. Yeah, okay, and then watch your scale. I think that we need a focal point. Right now, we don't have a focal point. Okay, this is a default focal point because it resides dead center, but there's no hierarchy here. So in other words, this is the same size and it kind of consumes the exact same amount of attention as the other images. So there's no real focal point and no establishment of hierarchy through the presentation of images. That's another thing that you'll want to keep in mind. Okay, so I'm okay. Sorry about that. My software just kind of crashed out for a second. So hopefully this will stay intact. I'll check. Okay, so go right ahead and start to reconfigure. Try to find some images to use as opposed to using these vector graphics. And you know, I'm sorry we didn't get to this earlier. It seems like there's going to be a little bit of work to do to bring this to the point where we need it. But again, just keep in mind the learning outcomes of the class is raster image processing. It's not a class in vector graphics, so we're going to stay away from vector graphics for the entirety of the class. Okay, I hope my comments make sense. Please let me know, and if you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to let me know. I'll be sure to respond immediately. Okay, thank you very much.